ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्।
मंगलचरणा गजानना मंगलचरणा गजानना मंगलचरणा गजानना मंगलचरणा गजानना गजवदना शुभानना गजवदना शुभानना गजवदना शुभानना गजवदना शुभानना मंगलचरणा गजानना मंगलचरणा विद्यादायक बुद्धिप्रदायक विद्यादायक बुद्धिप्रदायक विद्यादायक बुद्धिप्रदायक विद्यादायक बुद्धिप्रदायक गौरी तनया गजानना मंगलचरणा गजानना मंगलचरणा गजानना गजवदना शुभानना गजवदना शुभानना मंगलचरणा गजानना मंगलचरणा गजानना विद्यादायक बुद्धिप्रदायक विद्यादायक बुद्धिप्रदायक गौरी तनया गजानना गौरी तनया गजानना गौरी तनया गजानना गौरी तनया गजानना मंगलचरणा गजानना
साक्षात् परब्रह्म साई गुरुवंदना सत्य साई
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 गुरुपदरंजन गुरु परमेशा गुरुपदरञ्जन गुरुपरमेशा गुरुब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु महेशा
गुरुब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु महेशा
गुरुब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु महेशा
गुरुब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु महेशा
सद्गुरु साई परतिपुरीशा
सद्गुरु साई परतिपुरीशा
सद्गुरु साई परतिपुरीशा
सद्गुरु साई परतिपुरीशा
शरण नमोस्तु ते साई महेशा
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 साक्षात् परब्रह्म साई गुरुवन्दना सत्य साई
साक्षात् परब्रह्म साई गुरुवन्दना सत्य साई
गुरुपदरञ्जन गुरुपरमेशा
गुरुपदरञ्जन गुरुपरमेशा
गुरुब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु महेशा
गुरुब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु महेशा
सद्गुरु साई परतिपुरीशा
सद्गुरु साई परतिपुरीशा
शरण नमोस्तु ते साई महेशा
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 साक्षात् परब्रह्म साई गुरुवन्दना सत्य साई माता भवानी जगदम्बे
माता भवानी जगदम्बे
माता भवानी जगदम्बे
माता भवानी जगदम्बे
ओ माँ ओ माँ माता भवानी जगदम्बे
माता भवानी जगदम्बे
शक्ति प्रदायिनी आनन्दरूपिणी
शक्ति प्रदायिनी आनन्दरूपिणी
शक्ति प्रदायिनी आनन्दरूपिणी
शक्ति प्रदायिनी आनन्दरूपिणी
कात्यायनी करुणा सदनी
कात्यायनी करुणा सदनी
कात्यायनी करुणा सदनी भवानी जगदम्बे
माता भवानी जगदम्बे
ओ माता भवानी जगदम्बे
माता भवानी जगदम्बे
शक्ति प्रदायिनी आनन्दरूपिणी
शक्ति प्रदायिनी आनन्दरूपिणी
कात्यायनी करुणा सदनी ओ माता भवानी जगदम्बे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे
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 हरे राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे
हरे राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे राम राम हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे
हरे राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे राम राम हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे
हरे राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे राम राम हरे हरे
हरे राम राम हरे हरे,
हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे।
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई,
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई,
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई,
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई।
परती के अवतारा,
परती के अवतारा,
परती के अवतारा,
परती के अवतारा।
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई,
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई,
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई,
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई।
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम, साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम।
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
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 मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम, साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम, साई राम।
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई,
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई,
परती के अवतारा,
परती के अवतारा।
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई,
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई,
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम।
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम।
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई।
हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा, साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा,
हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा।
दीनबन्धु साईनाथा, करुणा सिंधु जगन्नाथा,
दीनबन्धु साईनाथा, करुणा सिंधु जगन्नाथा,
दीनबन्धु साईनाथा, करुणा सिंधु जगन्नाथा,
दीनबन्धु साईनाथा, करुणा सिंधु जगन्नाथा।
हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा,
हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा,
हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा,
हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा।
हे शिरडी जगन्नाथा, हे परति जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा,
हे शिरडी जगन्नाथा, हे परति जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा।
हे शिरडी जगन्नाथा, हे परति जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा,
हे शिरडी जगन्नाथा, हे परति जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा।
हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा,
हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा।
दीनबन्धु साईनाथा, करुणा सिंधु जगन्नाथा,
दीनबन्धु साईनाथा, करुणा सिंधु जगन्नाथा।
हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा,
हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा।
हे शिरडी जगन्नाथा, हे परति जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा,
हे शिरडी जगन्नाथा, हे परति जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा।
हे शिरडी जगन्नाथा, हे परति जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा,
हे शिरडी जगन्नाथा, हे परति जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा।
हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा, हे साई जगन्नाथा। राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की,
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की,
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की,
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की।
अंजनी पुत्रा बल भीमा, आंजनेया बल भीमा,
अंजनी पुत्रा बल भीमा, आंजनेया बल भीमा,
अंजनी पुत्रा बल भीमा, आंजनेया बल भीमा,
अंजनी पुत्रा बल भीमा, आंजनेया बल भीमा।
बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीमा,
बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीमा।
वायु कुमारा बल भीमा, वानर वीर बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीमा
बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीमा
परति पुरीशा साई रामा पावन पुरुषा साई रामा
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 साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई रामा
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई रामा
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई रामा
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई रामा
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की
अंजनी पुत्र बल भीमा आंजनेय बल भीमा
अंजनी पुत्र बल भीमा आंजनेय बल भीमा
बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीमा
बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीमा
वायु कुमार बल भीमा वानर वीरा बल भीमा
वायु कुमारा बल भीमा वानर वीरा बल भीमा
बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीमा
बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीम बल भीमा
परति पुरीशा साई रामा पावन पुरुषा साई रामा
परति पुरीशा साई रामा पावन पुरुषा साई रामा
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई रामा
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई रामा
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई रामा
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई रामा
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की। गंगाधरा हर गंगाधरा हर कैलासनाथ प्रभु शंकरा
गंगाधरा हर गंगाधरा हर कैलासनाथ प्रभु शंकरा
गंगाधरा हर गंगाधरा हर कैलासनाथ प्रभु शंकरा
गंगाधरा हर कैलासनाथ प्रभु शंकरा
भवनाशा भवबन्ध विमोचन
भवनाशा भवबन्ध विमोचन
भवनाशा भवबन्ध विमोचन
भवनाशा भवबन्ध विमोचन
सत्य साई शिव शंकरा
साई शिव शंकरा
सत्य साई शिव शंकरा
साई शिव शंकरा
गंगाधरा हर गंगाधरा हर कैलासनाथ प्रभु शंकरा
गंगाधरा हर गंगाधरा हर कैलासनाथ प्रभु शंकरा
भवनाशा भवबन्ध विमोचन
भवनाशा भवबन्ध विमोचन
सत्य साई शिव शंकरा
साई शिव शंकरा
सत्य साई शिव शंकरा
साई शिव शंकरा
गंगाधरा हर कैलासनाथ प्रभु शंकरा
गंगाधरा हर गंगाधरा हर कैलासनाथ प्रभु शंकरा
भवनाशा भवबन्ध विमोचन
भवनाशा भवबन्ध विमोचन
सत्य साई शिव शंकरा
साई शिव शंकरा
सत्य साई शिव शंकरा
साई शिव शंकरा
गंगाधरा हर कैलासनाथ प्रभु शंकरा
पिबरे रामरसं रसने ಇವರೇ ರಾಮರ ಸೌ
ಇವರೇ ರಾಮರ ರಸನೆ ಇವರೇ ರಾಮರ
ಇವರೇ ರಾಮರ ರಸನೆ ಇವರೇ ರಾಮರ ಸೌ
ಇವರೇ ರಾಮರ ರಸನೆ ಇವರೇ ರಾಮರ
ಜನನ ಮರಣ ಭಯ ಶೋಕವಿದೂರಂ
ಜನನ ಮರಣ ಭಯ ಶೋಕವಿದೂರಂ
ಜನನ ಮರಣ ಭಯ ಶೋಕವಿದೂರಂ सकल शास्त्र निगमागम सारं
सकल शास्त्र निगमागम सारं
सकल शास्त्र निगमागम सारं
सकल शास्त्र निगमागम सारं
इबरे इबरे रामरसं
So the problem, what is the problem with this mind? We all know that, yes, I completely agree with Bhagwan on this. And then Swami goes on to explain that this mind, which is our best infrastructure that we have to deal with anything, right? For everything we use our mind. But from time to time, just like the smartphones that we have got, and some bug enters it, or some bug enters the software. Similarly, there are three kinds of bugs that taint our mind or give problem to our mind, and these need to be debugged, if we can use the software language for it. So Swami, in fact, very beautifully gives us the categories for these three bugs, or the larger buckets in which all our problems happen. So let's really think about it, because that is where we are going to go to when Swami says remove want, remove I, and you will have peace. So how do we actually reach there? So Swami says that there are three issues with the mind. One is mala, the second is vikshepa, and the third is avarna. So what is mala? Swami gives the example of a mirror. So you want to see, and he gives the simile of the mirror to the mind of man. So if you want to see a reflection of yours in the mirror, but if there is a layer of dust on top of the mirror, will you be able to see a reflection? No, and therefore you will have to remove that, and that is nothing but mala. And that can be done through sacred work, through all the time taking up seva or selfless service. That's right. So selfless service is the solution for removing mala, as Bhagwan says. To remove vikshepa is nothing but the wavering nature of mind. So you take the same example of the mirror. If the mirror was all the time shaking, will you be able to see or focus on your reflection? Once again, no. So you need to steady the mind. And for that, you namasmarana, japa, which is the same, and dhyana. These are the solutions to reduce the waywardness of the mind. And the third is avarna, which is nothing but, what if the mirror is covered with a cloth. If it's covered with a cloth, once again you will not be able to see your reflection. And that can happen only through jnana or knowledge or wisdom. So, if these are the three issues of the mind, and we know Swami has even given us the solution, which is for mala, to remove mala, it is selfless service. To remove vikshepa, it is japa and dhyana. And for removing avarana, it is the getting of knowledge. We all know about the amount of importance Swami gave to selfless service. And that in itself is another huge topic that we probably will deal with another day, maybe in another satsang. What we would like to do in today's and in the coming weeks satsang is we would like to focus on this vikshepa, which is how to remove the waywardness of the mind through japa and through dhyana.
Yeah, and in fact, Bhagwan very emphatically states in the Dhyana Vahini, Swami says, the chief purpose of dharana and dhyana is to minimize the travels of the mind and force it to stay in one place. Holding it on to that fixed stage, one should continue sadhana for a long time. And in fact, the beautiful promise that Swami gives is there is no limit to the joy and peace that one can have once you are onto the path of dhyana, japa sahita dhyana, as Bhagwan used to say. And Amey, I feel that it is really Swami's design, it is his will that we are recording this satsang on the day Bhagwan installed the meditation tree,
wow,
which is the symbol of inspiration for us to take on to this path of dhyana. Way back in 1959, in the month of April, when Bhagwan was on the sands of Chitravati, Swami took a little sand and made it into a mound. And when he made that mound, there's always expectation in people's minds what is going to come out, because those were the Leela days of Bhagwan. Every time he would bring out something, it could be an idol, it could be a sweet, it could be anything, but every time it was a beautiful surprise. And that pleasant evening, Bhagwan removed from the sands this dazzling copper plate, 10 inches by 15 inches. And Swami said that in the earlier times, ancient sages and saints, even Buddha, they used to look for energized places for their sadhana. Buddha used to have the Bodhi tree. And Swami said, this copper plate is a sasana. This is to be installed under such a tree so that when people sit under the shade of such a tree, then they'll be able to subdue their mind and achieve greater concentration. And on June 29th, 1959, this very day, June 29th, Bhagwan installed this copper plate. And on that day, Swami made this declaration: in times to come, the power that is invested here will draw yogis and spiritual aspirants who have attained a certain level of spiritual attainment to Prashanti Nilayam. And Swami says, this mysterious force will pull people from all over the globe to experience the peace that is Prashanti.
So in fact, how blessed we are that Swami has actually given us a beautiful symbol. But is it possible that everyone can actually come here? And does it mean that only when we sit under the Vatavriksha will we be able to, meditate? What Swami has always been telling us, in fact, what we have so far even been talking about is, it is not an external place.
Yes.
But Vatavriksha in fact symbolizes what we need to construct for ourselves. There must be a Vatavriksha in each and every one of our minds, in each one of our hearts, where we will be able to sit and we will be able to subdue that. So I think in many ways, the Vatavriksha stands for the symbol of a forest. Typically when we look at a tree, it stands for a forest. And the beautiful adage of Swami, which pretty much sums up the entire Bhagavad Gita, which is head in the forest and hands in the society. Swami never wanted us to escape from the world. In fact, today there is no space placed where we can escape from and go and, meditate. But can we keep our head in the forest while we are having our hands in society? In fact, this is what even Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, Mam anusmara yuddhacha. Right? He says, you think about me and fight the battle. So that is the surest formula that Swami is giving us to overcome the stress. If we are able to keep our mind in that location, like Vatavriksha, while the hands are engaged in all the duties and the works and the responsibilities, we will be able to actually experience that truest peace.
Absolutely. So we have to get on to this path of sadhana, get on to this path of dhyana, where we can create that Vatavriksha within us and experience Prashanti. Yes, if you are in Prashanti, if you have the opportunity to be here, definitely you should go there and experience that bliss, but take that with you and recreate that in your homes. And that is the reason why in Dhyana Vahini, Bhagwan lays down certain prerequisites for doing dhyana, how we should do dhyana, what are the things that you should be very, very clear about when you decide to walk on this path.
And I would really recommend that for any kind of doubts, this is the Bible for all the Sai devotees, and that we must be able to read this. I think the least of anything, whether we practice dhyana or not, I think let us spend some time in reading Dhyana Vahini, because it pretty much covers every single topic which is necessary for a sadhaka. And I guess whoever has stress, automatically you qualify to undertake the sadhana of dhyana.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the things that Bhagwan mentions in Dhyana Vahini, if you decide to do dhyana, Swami says, you have to ensure that you maintain the same time.
Yes.
You have to do early in the morning, possibly before 6 o'clock. And once you decide a time, stick to it. Don't compromise on that. So same time every day.
Yeah, and especially I think what we need to remember over here is Swami would always mention about this, the 4 to 8 in the morning and 4 to 8 in the evening are the sattvic periods of the day.
Yes.
So doing dhyana during these times, 4 to 8 in the morning or 4 to 8 in the evening, it would be an ideal time to do dhyana. And I think it's more like, why Swami focuses so much on the same time. It's like an appointment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to go. Imagine you're having an appointment with the top CEO or with your boss. You definitely wouldn't like to go, late for that meeting, isn't it? Here is a time when you're having an appointment with your Lord, who is
the CEO of the universe.
The CEO of the universe. Yes.
Yeah.
The only executive officer, in fact. He's not the chief, the only executive officer of the universe. So you would want to be on time every time. Exactly. So that's the important.
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to go into detail every point that Swami has mentioned, that would be a huge discussion by itself, because Swami is talking about having sattvic food.
Yes.
Swami is saying that we should be on empty stomach. Basically, once you're on the path of sadhana, there are so many things that you have to do, not just during the time when you're doing dhyana, but in your daily life.
Correct. So, because I think dhyana in many ways is a culmination of all of that.
Yes.
Isn't it? It's a preparation that you need to put in for the entire day. Yeah. So whether it is time, whether it is space, Swami says that even try and fix up a particular place where you do the dhyana. Be always in comfortable clothing, not too tight, because your breathing has to be very rhythmic and very harmonious. So Swami talks about time, place, clothing, posture. Yes. Swami would often say that have a straight back, as straight and tall as possible, and as steady as possible. Yes. So while the rest of your body you may be sitting, it's not necessary that you have to always be in Padmasana, while all of Padmasana would be the ideal posture to be in. But just being steady and having a tall back, that is another thing. Yes. As you mentioned, sattvic food.
Yes. And one thing that I noticed, Dhamay, when I was reading Dhyana Vahini, is Swami is continuously stressing on one important characteristic, And that is cheerful attitude.
Yes.
It's like Swami saying, if you're sitting for dhyana, there should be that beautiful, gentle smile on your face. Not just on your face, in your entire being. And I think that is something I feel is so important.
And I think, it's Swami's beauty, isn't it? How such a sweet Lord we have, that he has gone to that extent to tell us that smile. All you need to do is to bring that smile on your face, because the moment you bring that smile on the face, automatically the entire body resonates with that kind of joy. And in fact, to add to that, oftentimes we consider, doing any spiritual kind of sadhana means, seriousness.
Yes.
And Swami would always label that as castor oil face.
Yes.
So having a cheerful attitude is an outcome of dhyana. It is also a prerequisite for dhyana. So whenever we sit for dhyana, whenever we sit for meditation, let us automatically bring on our, force ourselves to smile. And slowly but surely, as we, get used to that, you will notice that the rest of your life will also become a smile. And I think smile is the sure shot way to express that peace.
Yeah.
Express that peace to everyone around.
Absolutely.
Imagine if you all the time meet a person, people around you are all the time serious.
Yeah.
You will automatically be stressed.
Yes.
So you are contributing to the stress of someone else
Yes. Yeah.
simply by not giving him that simplest.
In fact, this
reward.
is exactly what Swami says in Dhyana Vahini. Don't make the world sadder
Exactly.
by your dhyana. Your dhyana should make the world happier.
Exactly.
It should bring more smiles in you and in and around you.
Yes.
And I think that is something that I feel we should never ever miss. Dhyana is not serious business. Dhyana is happy business.
Yes, and I think this should become a signature of all Sai devotees,
Yes.
which is to have a smile on our face.
Yes.
Right? If that can, in fact, that is one of the, in 1965, when Swami was handing out the first set of Sevadal badges to the first set of Sevadals, he said, one thing along with your badge that you must wear on your body is a smile. Yeah. Whoever comes into Prashanti Nilayam must be able to see that smile, that joy radiating from within, and that comes probably in the beginning it may even be something which is forced upon, but eventually it will become a part and parcel of our being and our character.
Absolutely. In fact, Amey, I am reminded of a conversation that I had with a Sai youth from South Africa, probably 5 years ago. And this sister, when I asked her, what is your most favorite spot in Prashanti Nilayam? If you come to Prashanti Nilayam, where will you want to go first? And she said, meditation tree. Wow. And she was probably 15, 16 years old. And I was like really shocked. I said, sure? You want to go to meditation tree? She said, yes. Why? And she says, see, I work for this company, and probably she's finished her graduation and already got into job. She needed to work. And she says that, one day when I was in the office, there was a phone call. I picked the call. On the other end, someone said that, hello, your car is stolen. Your car is stolen. And she says, when I heard that, yes, immediately I was shaken, but just in a few seconds, I got back my composure. Like, I was absolutely calm. So my colleagues asked, what happened? And I said, no, they say that my car is stolen. And everyone around said, your car is stolen. What are you sitting here so calmly? How can you be like this? Do you even realize your car is gone? And in South Africa, it's not easy to get back a thing like that. It's not easy to sort it out. She says, it doesn't matter. I know Swami is in charge. I know it'll just get sorted out. I'm not, going to be disturbed at all. She was very, very calm. And I asked her, how did you get this much of equanimity? You're just 16. It was like a monk who was 60. That kind of equanimity she was, you could see on her face. And she said, this strength, this has come from Swami. This has come from Prashanti Nilayam. When I come to Prashanti, I go to the meditation tree. I sit there. And this is the way it has strengthened my mind to face whatever happens in life.
Beautiful. I think that is what happens when we take our sadhana very seriously. We are able to face major crises in our life with that much of, calmness and equanimity. In fact, it gives us clarity on how we are supposed to respond in such kind of circumstances. Brother Bishu, I'm reminded of another very beautiful, very poignant story, the incident that we were all kind of a witness to in many ways. We all know about, the wonderful, beautiful devotee of Swami, Mr. James Sinclair. James Sinclair is one of the more prosperous businessmen in the United States. He has his own diamond, business, and extremely wealthy and everything that life can offer. But and yet he takes his sadhana extremely seriously. In fact, he has spoken at various forums in our university as well, where he says that his early morning time with Swami is so important for him, his meditation. Now, what we wanted to share with you is, on one occasion, in fact this happened I think in the early 2000s, when his wife was traveling to Prashanti, she met with an accident and she lost her life. Now you can imagine what a devastating blow that is, to lose someone on their way to Prashanti. How much more difficult it can get. So many doubts. And obviously a few days later, Mr. James Sinclair himself came to Parthi. He came to Prashanti Nilayam. He was sitting there and Swami called him for an interview. And many of Swami's students were sitting around Swami. And he asked James Sinclair, what do you want? At that moment when you are facing probably the greatest crisis of your life, and that the person who is asking you is capable of giving you whatever you want, right? He says, see, this is the maturity of that gentleman. He says, Swami, I want what you want for me. I'll repeat it. He says, Swami, I want what you want for me. I don't want anything else. He could have asked for the life of his wife, but he did not. And I still remember the brothers who were sitting around, they said that they saw the most beatific smile coming on Swami's face. Because Swami simply had the smile on his face. He looked at all the brothers and he said, Chudra, see, this is what a devotee is. This is the maturity of this devotee. To accept whatever happens in our life as Bhagwan's prasadam, and with that much serenity and equanimity to accept it and lead your life, that is what dhyana does to us. That is what meditation does to us.
Absolutely. In fact, Sinclair was what he was because of that absolute concentration on Swami. Focus was so total on Bhagwan, and that's why that acceptance became easy. And interestingly, Bhagwan mentions in Dhyana Vahini that once you get this focus on Swami, what will happen is prema will blossom from your heart, Swami says. And this is again, I find Swami reiterating it in so many paragraphs in Prema, in Dhyana Vahini. Swami says that, see, if you do other kind of sadhana, like, yoga, various kinds of yogas and this tapa, penance, like in the earlier times, many sages and all used to do, Swami says that might give you extraordinary power. You do this penance and you get this power. But Swami says, if you do dhyana, if you do japa, what you will get is extraordinary prema. And Swami says, through this prema, you can bind the Lord. In fact, I am reminded of an incident that happened in 1949. This is recorded in the book Sri Satyasai written by Karunamba Ramamurthy, madam. Fondly, she is called Kannamma. So, Kannamma, along with her family, used to spend days in Prashanti Nilayam. In those days, 1949, India had probably just attained independence, absolutely no amenities, no electricity, no roads, nothing. And Kannamma's sister, Radhamma, she had great love for Bhagwan, and every day she would prepare warm milk for Swami. And Swami used to love it. Even though we know that Swami used to hardly eat, even if anybody has had the chance to be with Bhagwan during the dining session, you would have seen Swami will just eat 1 or 2 spoonfuls and that's all. And Swami would never touch milk, curd, anything of those dairy products. But they say that Kannamma, whenever Radhama used to prepare this warm milk for Swami, Swami would many times partake it. And one day Swami went to Radhama and Swami said, Radhama, I am bound to you. I will do whatever you wish. And Radhama did not have a child for 12 years. And that was the time when she was in the family way, after 12 years. So after staying with Bhagwan for a few days, they go back. And that's when she gets into labor and the delivery happens. And when the baby is born, the whole family is in absolute silence because the baby is stillborn. There is no breath and absolutely no life in the infant. And they are so devastated. How could this happen to us? So much we love Swami and we just came from Bhagwan. But after a few days, Kannamma's mother and husband go to Bhagwan. And when Swami sees them, the first thing, Swami comes almost like running to them and Swami says, still you have come? In spite of this incident, still you came for my darshan? And Kannamma's mother says, Swami, that is our karma, Swami. Why should we blame you? What harm have you done, Swami? It is whatever that we have.
What maturity to realize that.
Yeah. And especially in that time, 1949, when people around were actually hostile.
Yes. Waiting for an opportunity to take you away from Swami.
Yes. But Swami said, okay, but what will the other people say, elders and your family members? I said, does not matter, Swami. We know that you can only do good. This is what we are experiencing, is what we have to go through. And then Swami says, this should not have happened. Radhama has a strong mind. Poor thing. She should not have gone through this. And Swami says, tell her, I am blessing her to have another child.
Wow, what a...
And then Swami looks at Kannamma's mother and Swami says, you go and tell Kannamma that I, this Satya Sai, will always keep his devotees in his heart. Satya Sai will always keep his devotees in his heart. And then Swami looks at Kannamma's mother and says, believe me, I am your protector. Believe me, I am your protector.
What an assurance.
I mean, as you when you say that through dhyana, through that one pointed concentration on Bhagwan, what kind of prema can come in us that you can bind the Lord? And once you have that strength, then there is no fear, no anxiety. In fact, a year later, 1950, is when Prashant Nilayam got inaugurated. And that morning, in this beautiful procession, when Bhagwan came from the Pata Mandiram to the new Mandir, one of the beautiful scenes that unfolded was Swami used to take these petals of flowers from the palanquin and Swami would just throw them gleefully. And when people used to receive these petals, they would transform midair into silver coins and pendants and sweets and so many beautiful things. And just when the procession was ending, Swami took a huge heap of flowers and Swami just dispersed them with so much of delight. And that time, when the people received those petals on their palms, they saw that it had transformed into a silver coin, a silver pendant with the words, "Why fear when I am here?" with Swami's image on it. I mean, this is the day when Swami gifted Prashant Nilayam to the whole world, and Swami is gifting this message also. Why fear when I am here?
And that's exactly the formula that all of us have to keep in this day and age of stress.
Yes.
That when we have Swami with us,
Yes.
then there is absolutely nothing to fear.
Absolutely.
Right? And once we have that knowledge all the time with us, a sense of contentment and satisfaction kind of envelops us.
Yeah.
Right? There is, because we know that what we are seeking is not from the world. It is not a temporary or an ephemeral, source of our peace and bliss, but it's a permanent source of joy.
In fact, that's what Swami says. Once you have this prema, you will have shanti, you will have santosha, you will have vicharana. Shanti is peace, santosha is contentment, vicharana is discrimination.
Yes.
What is right, what is wrong. And Swami says, this will lead you to sakshatkara. And in fact, again in Dhyanavahini, very beautifully Swami says, if there is contentment in the mind, one enjoys an endless festival. Dhyana is the first class cure for the bhavaroga. Along with it, the another drug that you have to take, and that is contentment. With that santi and santosha, your life is an endless festival.
What else do we want?
Absolutely.
Yes.
ॐ जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक पति महेश्वरा ॐ जय जगदीश हरे शशिवदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपते स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते आश्रित कल्पलतिका आश्रित कल्पलतिका आपद्बान्धवा ॐ जय जगदीश हरे मातपिता गुरुदैवमु मरियन्तयु नीवे स्वामी मरियन्तयु नीवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नागेन्द्रशयन ॐ जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी हो साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगल आरती अंधुको मंगल आरती अंधुको मंदर गिरिधारी ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण नारायण ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा शांति 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 समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति 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 जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।